What's good, historians? Welcome to the Black Tampa Historians podcast, where we will be spilling the tea on our city's Black history. I'm yours truly, Ashley Morrow, and today we are sitting with Miss Norene Copeland Miller, Tampa native and friends of the Saved Memorial Park Cemetery in Belmont Heights. Welcome, Miss Norene. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much.
Can you tell us a little bit more about you, where you grew up? How was it living here in Tampa? Specifically, like some things that we might find interesting historical wise, like locations, schools, any people that kind of stood out to you in your youth?
Well, I grew up originally. I was born in Tampa. I'm a Tampanian, but I grew up in South Tampa. I grew up on Tampania, one of the communities that is no longer in existence. We don't even know that we live there. And I lived there. I could not go to Mitchell Elementary because I was Black, so we had to walk to Doverville and High Park. We walked from South Tampa to High Park to go to first grade, sixth grade in a two-story white house.
Wow.
And it was back then segregation was very real, but you know what? We made it work. We had great teachers that believed in us. We had teachers that made sure we were able to read. The books that we got were not new. They were hand me down, but they made it work, and they made sure that we were able to do arithmetic, as they called it back then. And we were reading, and we had teachers that truly cared, and they were not afraid to make sure your parents knew what was going on with you, and they didn't care. They would come to your home if need be to make sure that you were getting a quality education. So I'm really grateful for that then. And as we move along, once I finished elementary school, and I can tell you one thing that really made a difference for me going to Doverville, when President Kennedy came to Tampa, because Doverville was on the corner of Dakota and Azle, we walked down to Rome, and we went down Rome to Grand Central at the time. Kennedy Boulevard was known as Grand Central. And when the President Kennedy came to Tampa, he came down Grand Central, and they had walked all over the little students there, and we stood there and waved at him.
Wow.
And got President John F. Kennedy, and I think the next day he went to Dallas, and where he was assassinated.
Wow.
But that was a historical moment for us because we were able to see him.
Yeah.
And that next day, once we witnessed what happened, we were all very sad and traumatized. But
I'm
that
sure
was a good moment for us back then.
Right. Well, that's amazing. I didn't even know you saw John F. Kennedy when he came into town. That's actually a very, very, very important moment in American history in general, and I'm pretty sure you guys felt blessed to be in that space to see him before he was assassinated. So Miss Norene is again, like I said, she's a Tampa native, and she is a juggernaut in trying to preserve Tampa's Black neighborhoods and making sure that people know that they existed, that they still exist, and they are going to keep prospering here in Tampa, and all the things that they've done. She wants them to be recognized for them. So for those that are not familiar with Belmont Heights, I'm going to do a quick little history rundown of Belmont Heights. If you give me a second, we're going to head over to the presentation. All right, so here, that is not the right slide. Okay, next, let me go to the right slide.
Actually, can I just go ahead and tell you that I went to Ernest E. Jelks?
Hold on a second. Wait, let me go back to your camera. Okay, go ahead. Can you tell me something else?
After I left Doverville, I did attend Ernest E. Jelks, that's in West Tampa, from 7th to 8th grade. And from there, I went to Blake High School, that was next door, from 9th grade to 12th grade. And then in my senior year, they enforced integration. And as a senior, I was forced to leave Blake because my mom had moved to Belmont Heights. And I had to go to Middleton my senior year. And because Blake was a Black school in Middleton, they were rivalries. So I had to go into this environment that, because of the tension, we were not treated the best, but as Black seniors in Hillsborough County, we had to go at the last minute to our school. But when some of the Black seniors that had to go to Plant in Robinson, they found out that those white seniors did not have to leave their school because they were seniors. But they did not have, we didn't have that same option as black seniors. Because I had went to Blake from 9th to 12th grade, and I was forced to go to Middleton my senior year, and I graduated from Middleton High School. That's how I ended up with the Belmont Heights area.
And what year did you graduate?
In 1971. That was the last year that Middleton Senior High School, as we now know it, is Farrell, was Middleton. But once we graduated, they downsized it to a junior high because it was substandard for the white students to attend at that time. So in 1971, it became a junior high school, and it was in 72 that it was. So then Middleton was rebuilt some years ago. But that's how I ended up in Belmont Heights and graduating from Middleton. I just want to share that little bit with the community.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for letting us know. Because you did talk about your childhood, but going further into furthering your education towards high school, that's important as well. And you definitely talked about something you're talking about things that we have mentioned on the page, talking about education as far as desegregation, Blake High School, Middleton High School, and them being converted into 7th and 8th grade centers, all that stuff. We've been talking about that, and it's amazing to talk to somebody that was there and experienced it firsthand before everything was desegregated.
Right.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the history of Belmont Heights. We have a little presentation for you, so I hope you learned something from this. So Belmont Heights got its start in the early 1900s. This article is from 1907, sorry. And it's talking about this big sale of Belmont Heights property. And this big sale is going on because they are trying to get the Belmont Heights lots off their hands. They have this land that's just north of Ybor, and they want to sell this land to get some money. But it's kind of a hard sell. Why is it a hard sell? Because there's not really the transportation is not the best. There's a few factors. So the lots are kind of given away. They're selling lots for 75 cents, and back then 75 cents was a good little penny, but it was not a lot of money. So they were kind of just trying to offload these lots and get it off their hands. And like I was saying earlier, it was a hard sale because it was far away. The streetcar transportation was the only way people could get out there. It was underdeveloped, so you had to go out there and work and actually clear this land. Here are a few ads that I found. People wanted to do a trade of the lots for a good cow, and we'll take chickens. This one is for several nice lots, or we'll exchange for something useful in Belmont Heights. This one is talking about they're hard pressed for money and will take 2 lots absolutely free. And these were white residents of Tampa. These were not black residents of Tampa. They were moving out there and they were just kind of buying land and figuring they could flip it. Y'all know how we do. Y'all know how people like to do. They like to buy land and try to flip it. But they were not seeing any return from this land. Nobody really wanted to buy from it, wanted to go out there and develop and buy it from them. So we move forward. We see some evidence of politics taking place out there. There's some local politicians that are emerging. Associations are getting created. Social clubs are being built and things like that. The Bushnell and Irwin are announcing another subdivision. So this was like the Belmont Heights 2 subdivision, and it was opening up. So they were trying to let people know that they were growing. So this was growth happening in 1922. Black residents start entering the picture. 1923, we're coming in the early 1920s. And here we have an article from 1924 where there's explaining everything is quiet in Belmont Heights where anti-Negro signs have been placed recently. So people did not want black people in Belmont Heights. And then we see another article talking about special cars. They wanted special cars to be made so that they did not have to ride with black people in the streetcar that rode from Tampa into Belmont Heights. So there was a lot of racial tension during that time. I think that it is important that we document the history of these different places. Miss Norene, had you ever heard any of that stuff before?
No, I have not heard that part. I can relate to when Buffalo Avenue was Buffalo, that's now MLK. Mm-hmm. When they would put the signs up to change it to MLK, that the white people would take the sign down, throw it on the ground, and because they wanted it to remain Buffalo. So that was a real
And it's
racial.
almost like history repeating itself, almost, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So it's amazing how, like, once we start learning the history, we can start seeing and relate to things that are happening. Every 20, 30, 40 years, it kind of recycles, and there's a reason
Absolutely.
why this, whatever reason, whether it's racially motivated, politically motivated, or whatever, there's these acts of injustice or acts of racial whatever in a neighborhood. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, that Belmont Heights definitely does have a history that spans further back than the 50s and the 40s and the 30s, but just letting you guys know how it got started and then how we kind of entered into the scene. Nobody wanted that land, but now it is a lot more developed. We have an amazing baseball youth league baseball team, and I think they're still
Yep.
popping too. So
Yes.
we have all these amazing things that are happening in Belmont Heights still to this day, and we want the youth to understand that Belmont Heights has a long history of success and achievements, and Miss
Mhm.
Norene's going to talk about that in a little bit. So what we have next on the agenda, I had a few questions laid out for you. Earlier, I went over with you. We outlined the boundaries of Tampa's historically black neighborhoods and how they've changed over time. We're gonna take a look at some of those. Take a look at that map. Are you ready, Miss Norene, to see?
Yes, I'm
All
ready.
right. All right. So we're gonna take a look over at this map. So here we have, and if you're not from Tampa, it's easy for you to like hear about all these different neighborhoods and you don't really know where they are. So I feel like this is very important for us to start talking and labeling and saying where these places actually are. So, Miss Norene, can you kind of guide us through what we're seeing here?
Well, with the Belmont Heights neighborhood, what you have listed on there first. I recall that Belmont Heights at one point used to be down to Columbus Drive,
Yes.
and some people say even further than that. And it came over to Hillsborough, but all of that has changed. And I was a part of an association that covered Belmont Heights, Jackson Heights, and Galloway Heights. I don't even think we have Galloway Heights on there.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
these are neighborhoods that are at that time were majority saturated with blacks in this city.
Right.
And we've lost a lot. The boundaries has arbitrarily been changed, and I think that's intentional because they continue to create new neighborhood associations that have nothing to do with the history of Belmont Heights, Jackson Heights, or any of that. So I think that is a process that's in place to erase our history. It is so important to know about Belmont Heights because we had the pharmacy here. There was a lot of prominent blacks that owned a lot of businesses that it's been not mentioned for whatever reason, but these areas were Central Park Village. It was a lot of black folks in there. You don't even people Central Park Village. What's that?
So let's see. Where's Central Park? So Central Park is down here. Central Park Village. We are in. This is Tampa right here, downtown Tampa. Central Park Village is right here. This red block.
Exactly.
So Central Park ran from Cass was the south border, Scott being the north border, and then we have Central Avenue
Yeah.
as the west border and Nebraska as the east border.
Well, Highland Pine is more out on the side of Belmont Heights.
Okay, so this is
Across 40th. That's where Highland Pines was.
okay over here. This is what I have, Highland Pines. Yes.
Exactly, across 40th. And of course, we know Robles Park
Okay.
is also another big part of where a lot of blacks were. And most of all, Doverville was a city in itself where a lot of prominent blacks lived and owned their own businesses and flourished, and where Doverville Elementary was that I attended from first to sixth grade. And then we go through Robert City, which nobody even wants to remember, but that's where Julian B. Lane Park is this day, right there off of North Boulevard. And there was a lot of blacks that lived in there. Who would know? Because there's nothing there. And as we look at Carver City and Lincoln Gardens, which again goes across Del Mabry, out to West Tampa, across MacDill, back up in there, that was a black community thriving, and it's still a lot of folks still holding on. But once again, they're losing a lot of their grounds. A lot of things is being bought out and taken by corporations. And then we have Annetta Garrison that nobody seems to want to talk about, that was downtown Tampa. And it's right there where we talk about Channel Side. But when you get down in that area, the Garrison was from Jackson Street on down to Platt Street. And it was a black community that you would never ever knew existed because that history been erased. And once again, when we get to Doverville, these are powerful areas that were there. We also talked a little bit about Tampania, that was in South Tampa where blacks lived. And no one would know that we lived from Armenia to Havana, from Asia over to Swan, because that's a continue now. Some of those, it's still a red line community when you go and look at Parkland Estate. That's still, we still have redlining in this city that nobody dare to talk about. But I lived it, so I can talk about it. And I have no problem with reminding people where we've been so we don't go back there again. So if you don't know your history, it's going to repeat itself. And right now, in my opinion, in this city, our history is being subtly erased. But we got to be better stewards of where we've been so we can make sure you guys know where you're going.
Right.
And make sure that our young people know what a rich history, and we built this city.
Right.
We've been in so many neighborhoods, but who would know that we were there when you go? And if you talk about Central Park Village, people are like, who, what? But that's the Encore. That's the Reed. Those apartments now where people are attending UT, University of Tampa, some of them are in there. It's a mixed unit. And it's a great place to live because you are right downtown in the heart of the city, where who would have thought they'd have those sorts of quarters for people to live in, those apartments.
Mm-hmm. And I think they're building some across the street from Blake too. Some
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So great things are happening. And I wish people would like, I know everything is not perfect and everything's not going to be perfect, but I see black residents living in these buildings. I know I always hear people saying those are condos. No black people live in there. No, black people and Latino people live in these buildings. Yeah, the Tampa Housing Authority has made the comment that they want their housing to look just as good as everyone else's. You should not be able to look at it and say, oh, this is lower income or affordable housing, as people like to say. So that is the goal, to try to beautify some of those places where we may have known growing up as the projects or whatever. So
those were the projects. And actually, thank you so much for that, because the Tampa Housing Authority, under the leadership of Mr. Jerome Ryan, has made that a mixed use area. So some people that that live in the project are able to live there on their income, and then they have others that can afford that higher rent. But as we talk about West Tampa, the Rome Yard, and all of those new apartments in West Tampa, the Housing Authority owns those apartments. They bring some people back if they want to come back, but they also are mixed use apartments, so people they can afford to pay, and a lot of folks relocate to Tampa.
Right.
They're seeing these glamorous high rise that nobody knew were priced.
Right.
But now they're expensive condos, and everybody want to be on the water and around in that area. So thank you for that. But it is absolutely amazing what's going on. But the Tampa Housing Authority owns a lot of that property, and people don't even know it.
So who are some notable figures associated with Belmont Heights that you give me a good 2 or 3?
I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Doc Brown. College Hill Pharmacy was one of the first black-owned pharmacies in this city. And Dr. Brown was the pharmacist there. His wife was Ruth Brown. She was a principal at Edison Elementary over in East Tampa. And also, I want to talk about Betty Wiggins. She was our entrepreneur with her printing shop that did a lot of programs, and also Miss AKA, but a legend in this city. And she was our CEO over the East Tampa Business and Civic Association. And also, I will talk about Gwen Miller, one of our city council representatives, as well as Reuben Paget, that was a county commissioner, and Betty Reed, that was a state representative. All these people come from East Tampa, and we just don't know the rich history we have. Now, we have our state rep right now, Diane Hart, from the heart of East Tampa. So we have to really know that Leslie Miller was one of our county commissioners. But these people have poured into the community. But most of all, Memorial Park Cemetery has some rich history in there because Cyrus Green Recreation Center and Park is Cyrus Green is there. Mr. Middleton, George S. Middleton, who Middleton High School named after, is also said to be there. But I know that Ray Williams out of West Tampa, he's in there. But it's a lot of folks in the Memorial Park Cemetery, which is the heart of Tampa, and I have to get that in because it's a great historical piece of this community that really is a hidden gem that is we're going to showcase and talk about tours in there because it's a lot of history that people need to know. And these folks built this city on their backs, and it's a lot of things from Claxton Manor, that was the first black hotel in Carver City. They're buried in that cemetery, but you couldn't live anywhere because when we talk about the Jackson Heights and all that, it is a lot of things that we have experienced in this city. So Belmont Heights has a rich history, and we have to make sure that we know we keep that. And the Belmont Heights Little League, where Dwight Gooden played out of, Sheffield, and other pro baseball players came out from Belmont Heights Little League. Then we got Belmont Heights Estates, where people are living in now. But most of all, this community has a lot of history, and we cannot not allow them to erase our historic Belmont Heights neighborhood.
You said a mouthful. That's amazing. And I heard you say some names. You said Reuben Pageant. Just a funny little story. So I went to Blake High School, and a friend of mine, her name is Jasmine Pageant. So I've known her, through my whole years of my 4 years at Blake. And when I start learning all this history, I see Reuben Pageant. I'm like, I know a Pageant. So I hit her up. I said, hey, do you know Reuben Pageant? She's like, oh, I think she said that's either her great-grandfather, her grandfather, or something. Probably her great-grandfather. And I was like, wow. I started realizing when I was reading these names that I'm like, oh, what? These are my peers. Their family is actually they have descendants and they carry on that name. And I thought that was so cool. And then don't mention the women because some women change their name, so it's easier to navigate if you knew them younger before they got married. But I think it's so cool that Clarence Wilson, I think his people are that's probably his
Wilson Funeral Home.
Yeah, that's his people.
We all went to church together. Helen Wilson, all of us went to St. Paul United Methodist Church together. And the Wilsons were there. Doretha Edgecombe was there. Doris Ross Reddick, Harold Reddick. These are civil rights leaders, but Doris Ross Reddick was one of the first black women, the first black woman on the Hillsborough County School Board for 12 years. And she just turned 97 years old. But she's right here in St. Paul, right on 15 and 26. So it's a lot of good things in this community that people need to know, and they don't realize we have so many rich experiences and history here that we can embrace with pride. I am proud. I could live anywhere else, but I've been living in Belmont Heights over 30-some years, almost 40 years. And I do own my home, so I'm not really trying to, if I would have moved out when I was younger, fine, but now I'm in the inner city. Everything is walkable and mobile, and I'm going to stay in the city because I should.
Because you can and you should, and that's what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely.
Period. So the next question I have for you, and you were kind of answering a lot of questions when you speak, so I'm like, she already answered that. What efforts are underway right now to preserve the heritage in these neighborhoods? What are you guys doing? I know you guys have an event coming up.
Oh, yeah. Well, we are having, we felt the need to have a historic Belmont Heights reunion. Last year was our first one because we could see some things changing and it was not being acknowledged as Belmont Heights. So we had our first reunion last year. We're having our second reunion here May the 4th at Cyrus Green Park. And we're excited about that. We're inviting and hoping you'll be a part of that because Belmont Heights, what Fred Hearns, our historian, has done is interviewed some of the seniors that are still alive, and they're telling their stories and their experiences in this community. And we have interviews with them, but also having pictures of the different things that have gone on in the businesses that are no longer with us. So we do have some historical sites. And one of my things I'm really excited about is the Memorial Park Cemetery, because we're going to have a local historical designation here in the city. And it's been a while since we've had that done in Belmont Heights. So we're hoping that the entire historic Belmont Heights community will embrace that. That's a cemetery that has over 900 veterans in there, Black veterans that could not be buried anywhere else because they were Black. So they're in that cemetery, and we've been doing some phenomenal things with that. We celebrated Memorial Park Day, but on May the 4th, we're going to do a light tour, and so that we can highlight some of that for about 30 minutes. Then we're going to transition to Cyrus Green, and we're hoping the community come out and grow. We're going to be including the Wilbur Davis Boys and Girls Club with that, who that Black man lost. He was one of the first people to die in Afghanistan from this city, and he's Black, Wilbur Davis, and he gave his life serving this country. So those sorts of things we need to make sure that
You
people know,
honor,
and our
yeah.
children know. And I'm very proud of that. We are just, it's a lot of good things going on. I'm looking forward to May the 4th, and I certainly hope that the community come out
And what time?
support it. It's going to be from 10 to 2 at Cyrus Green. We're going to start out at the cemetery with a light tour at 9. And from my understanding, also on that day, the Belmont Heights Little League possibly will be playing a game in the park. So
Awesome.
that'll give us opportunity to support them at the concession stand and help them with their team. So it's an opportunity to give back, but also to enjoy our rich history. So I'm excited.
So what's the story behind the Belmont Heights Cemetery and its significance to the community? And I know you've been doing a lot of work to preserve it, and you've gotten some amazing things done so far. Can you tell us, like, what was the journey to get to where you are now?
Well, last year in January 2023, the city of Tampa allowed a property flipper to purchase the cemetery. I think that they had been putting fines on the cemetery because the owner, past owner, he died. And his family did not want the cemetery. So the city was keeping it up, cleaning it, and they were putting fines on it. So it went to auction for $9,000, which the city could have paid that or let the community know. I might have bought it for $9,000, but nobody knew. So a property flipper went on when the auction started. It supposed to be a blind auction, but it was a couple of people went on and did it. And he got it for $18,000, and that was 20 acres. And so once he purchased it, I found out because I had no idea. I had came in from Maryland to go for my daughter's wedding, but when I found out, I was upset because my mother is buried there. My grandfather and my great-grandfather, my grandfather had served in World War II, is buried there. My brother served in the military. I have 3 of my grandmothers and two great-grandmothers there. My namesake, who I'm named after, and then my brothers. And I have 15 at least that I know of my family members buried in there in a family plot. So I was angry, to be real. I was very upset about how dare you let a property flipper buy a cemetery. And he was ready, I think, to develop on parts of it. But once it came to the public, when I found out, I went to city council and I was very upset, and I let them know this should have never happened, and I would be coming to city council every week until they made it right. Well, that took us a good 5 months, but I met with the mayor. We did our work. We went there and we kept staying in front of them, and they purchased the cemetery in May of 2023 because we were very clear about deadlines. We were never going to go away, and he was not negotiating. They purchased it back for him for $100,000. And so he really made a big profit. But for me, if they would have had to pay $200,000, it did not matter because it should never happen. No cemetery should be purchased by a property flipper. But what happened for me is I realized, and after meeting other folks, that this is a trend throughout this country. But the first people that they are taking advantage of is our Black people. They're building on our cemetery. They're building on the grave. They're developing on our cemetery, on the Black graves first, and then they'll move out to others. So right now, we have the cemetery. It never had a fence all the way around. We have it fenced in with a temporary fencing. They have a plan to put up permanent fencing that's going to be complement this community with the way it should be. We're going to have a historical marker that's been approved that should be coming up in a couple of months that we want to celebrate that. But we will have a permanent place to preserve our rich history. In there, we got people in there that were civil service agents. FBI people. We have a lot of stuff in there that we don't know about. We got a lot of teachers, principals, posts, people that made this city work in the Black community. We have to know our history. We got to preserve it, because if we don't tell our own story, they'll tell it for us.
Right. That's very heavy, and that is very real. We have to preserve these cemeteries. They have my ancestors are buried there as well. And like you, I was confused. I was trying to figure out what was going on. Why is everybody mad? And then and then I saw what was going on, and then it related back to me, because I was like, wait, my people in there too. Like I was like, what? I was like, what is everybody so upset about? They sold a cemetery. I was like, how did they do that? How did that happen? It was a Black cemetery? What? I was like, oh, my people in there. I was like, wow, this is a lot right now. And we've seen cases of this over in St. Pete, the Tropicana Field, and them building on top of King. I think at King High School. I don't think they built on top of it, but their agricultural program is out there where a Black cemetery is.
Absolutely.
Over at McDill, there was Port Tampa cemetery. There's a Black cemetery over there. So
let's not forget Robles Park,
Zion.
They built those projects on top of those Black folks' graves.
Yes.
And been living there for years, and still people are there, but they're moving them out. But this is a trend, but it has gotten, I think recently it has gotten just out of control, because of course we're not generating new land. So we're going to take property they think nobody cares about. But we care about Belmont Heights Memorial Park Cemetery. And we're going to make sure that we maintain our history. And I'm glad that you have family in there, because you could be, just knowing that it's important to stay on top of it. But our young people got to know and care for our family, because I know we're not going to be here forever, but we must make them do the right thing now. And the city of Tampa is taking a stance, and they're doing what they need to be doing. I'm the founder of Friends of Belmont Heights Memorial Park Cemetery, and I'm registered. Our organization is a nonprofit, but we have a board that are very active and engaged in making sure we clean it up and that we provide other things that go there. We've done Reef Across America. We did Memorial Park Day. We bought over 600 flags and put on those graves. That was phenomenal. We've never, and it's over 900 people that we ran out of flags. But I engaged the Boys and Girls Club, and those young people were honored to lay down a flag, because we had a lieutenant colonel, Black man, came in and showed them how to place them on the grave. Because we try to build in an educational piece in that, so you know that we don't just show up and just put a flag down. It's a process, it's a procedure. And he taught them that, and those young people love doing that and being involved. Yeah. And they made them read those headstones. People in World War I, people in World War II, the Korean War. We even have some people now from Vietnam War. Those kids didn't know about these warriors and how people served this country. Black folks, when they were not treated the best, but they wanted them to know, I am a man, and I can serve and protect my country as well, and carry a gun, just like the white soldiers. Because trust and believe, they did not have a easy road. Right. Segregation was very real, and they were called all kinds of names, but they persevered.
It's been an amazing time speaking with you. And if you have is there anything else you want to share about Belmont Heights, and anything else that you think is important for people to know about?
I'm just grateful, and thank you for the opportunity to share about historic Belmont Heights. So I just want everybody to know it's important that if you were born in Belmont Heights, raised in Belmont Heights, went to school in Belmont Heights, you have a role and you have a responsibility to keep this history alive. So that's all I want to say. Let's come together as a community and preserve our rich history, because we have a lot. And people have given their life to make this, the great city is either, they said, living in paradise. A lot of folks gave their blood, sweat, and tears for paradise. Let's not let that be forgotten in the historic Belmont Heights neighborhood. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you joining us. From the OG spots on Central Ave to the latest vibes, we're chatting with historians, creatives, everyday legends, and their descendants. Follow this page, hit play, and let's make some Tampa history together. This is Ashley Morrow signing off. Bye.
Don't walk away, never walk away before we